Usually when you hear a story about a hostage rescue, the script is just incredibly predictable.
Right. Yeah, the door gets kicked down and they run out.
Exactly. The victim runs out into the daylight, and they are just profoundly grateful to be saved. The line between monster and victim is perfectly clear. But, I mean, what happens when the rescuers kick down that door and the victim is the one who locks it back up from the inside?
Yeah, that is the exact premise we are looking at today.
Right. So today we are jumping into an exploration into our source material, which is a dark, psychological thriller screenplay. It's called Killer and the Girl, written by Melody S. Horton. And our mission for you today is to really extract the core psychology of this story.
Because it serves as a striking case study in survival mechanics. I mean, we get to look under the hood of how the human mind will just completely warp its own reality to survive the unimaginable.
Let's set the baseline for you using the script's specific details. We meet our protagonist, who is known simply as the Girl. She is 40, deeply depressed, and her only real companion is a black cat named Mephisto.
Right, and she works this dreary office job where she is completely ignored.
Yeah, especially by this cruel coworker the script just calls cute guy. But then her whole life shatters when she's abducted by a masked, cannibalistic serial killer.
Which sounds like a standard horror setup right up until the police, specifically the sleazy male detective and a tough lady detective, discover she is his sole survivor.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because the physical evidence they find at the hospital completely breaks the mold of what you expect from a true crime survivor story.
Oh, absolutely. It throws out the standard narrative immediately.
I mean, she has 4-inch lacerations all over her body that have been meticulously stitched up with household thread. And her stomach actually contains human meat.
Which is horrific enough on its own.
Right. But then the absolute inciting anomaly is the medical reports. They show her most recent intimacy with her captor was entirely consensual.
Yeah, and to understand how she got to that point, we really have to examine the killer's psychology first. There's an FBI profiler character in the script who realizes the killer isn't just acting out of mindless cruelty, or even physical hunger, for that matter.
He's a spiritual cannibal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He targets cops and bodybuilders to ingest their strength. He targets firefighters to consume courage, and specific women for being good mothers.
Wow.
Yeah, he isn't just killing. What's fascinating here is that he is meticulously grocery shopping for a soul.
It's like he's treating humanity as this twisted, supernatural parts bin to construct a personality.
That is a great way to put it.
But the girl offers none of those virtues. She is deeply depressed and completely broken. So if his entire existence depends on this rigid system of consuming traits, what does it mean for his psychology that he spares someone who gives him absolutely nothing?
Well, it reveals that his rigid system was built entirely to fill his own internal emptiness. He's essentially a hollow vessel,
Right.
and when he captures the girl, her brokenness mirrors his own.
So the profiler figures out that the killer has actually fallen in love with her.
Yes, exactly. Forming a genuine emotional bond is the one and only thing powerful enough to break his own sociopathic rules.
But recognizing her brokenness is one thing. Her deciding to stay with the cannibal is another entirely. I mean, she had chances to run.
Right, she definitely did.
So what is the psychological mechanism keeping her there? Is this just classic Stockholm syndrome, where the brain subconsciously appeases a captor just to avoid getting killed?
It goes much deeper than just appeasement. It is a profound trauma bond based on shared wounds.
Yeah.
Like, there is a crucial scene where the killer takes her to a locked room in his house.
Right, the room with the 2 beds.
Yeah. Inside are 2 beds and 2 skeletons. In a pristine white feather bed lies the remains of his murdered mother.
Oh, man.
And in a dirt-covered bed lies his abusive father. And the father's skeleton is actually still holding the very hatchet he used to horribly scar the killer's face when he was a boy.
And her reaction to this horrific display is what seals it. She doesn't scream or run away. She immediately relates it to her own childhood of emotional neglect and physical abuse.
Right, she tells him, Daddy always did the whippings.
Yes. She learned early on to connect pain with love. That shared trauma bridges the gap between them, leading to this horrific point of no return.
Which is the climax of their relationship, where she fully crosses the line from captive to active participant.
I mean, the killer actually kidnaps cute guy from her office.
Right, the coworker.
Yeah, and together they torture him, slice him in half, and the killer prepares a 4-course dinner out of him, which they eat by candelabra light.
It is just an incredibly gruesome scene.
It really is. But here's where it gets really interesting. We have to push back on her victim status at this point. Was this just extreme psychological manipulation by the killer, or did he unlock a darkness that was always dormant inside her? After all, the script notes she was cutting herself before she was ever abducted.
That is a vital distinction to make. She wasn't a blank slate. By self-harming previously, she was already directing violence inward.
Okay, yeah.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the killer didn't necessarily brainwash her. He just gave her permission to direct that violence outward.
Wow, so the script uses this stylized horror to explore the real-life cycle of violence, where a victim's pain becomes their comfort zone because the abuser offers them the one thing society denied them, which is validation and power.
Exactly. But obviously, this intimate, twisted bubble cannot last forever. The outside world, the police eventually force their way in.
Right, and the script pivots from a private character study to a massive violent spectacle. We get SWAT raids with booby traps, attacking hogs in the mist, a chase through the LA river sewers, and ultimately this tragic shootout on a beach.
Where the sleazy male detective shoots the girl from a helicopter.
Yeah, and she dies in the killer's arms. Her last words to him are, "Now I will always be with you."
It's strangely tragic for such a brutal story.
It is. And then mourning her, he literally licks her blood, executes the detective with a thrown knife, and just disappears into the ocean waves.
Which leads right into the epilogue and the premises for 2 sequels that completely shift the genre.
Right, part 2 is Killer City.
Yeah, Killer City envisions the killer surviving and enforcing a brutal martial law over Los Angeles. He's hunting 7 women to complete a sacrifice of the 7 virtues to resurrect the girl.
And then part 3, Killer Souls, elevates him into a dark web urban legend.
He essentially becomes a ghost at that point.
Yeah, people play this deadly online game of the 7 virtues, and if their soul fails the test, the killer's ghost murders them in real life.
Right.
So what does this all mean? I mean, we go from a gritty, isolated psychological thriller to basically a supernatural comic book villain origin story.
Well, it illustrates the mechanics of how trauma and violence escalate into myth. The killer transcends being a mortal man and becomes the literal embodiment of a city's collective fear, its guilt, and its underlying sickness.
So he's no longer just an isolated murderer.
Exactly. He's an inescapable consequence of the environment itself.
So for those of you listening, why should we care about this extreme fiction? I mean, because underneath all the elements of cannibalism and gore, it is a really profound exploration of severe loneliness.
It really is. It's about the human desperation for connection at any cost.
Yeah, and how the mind will attempt to survive unimaginable trauma by completely reshaping its reality.
Which brings up a chilling final thought regarding that dark web sequel premise we just mentioned.
Oh, right, the online game one.
Yeah, think about it. What if the true horror of this universe isn't the killer himself, but how easily the everyday public adapts to his madness, and even willingly participates in it through an online game?
That is terrifying to think about. It leaves us with a lingering question to ponder. Does a sick society ultimately create and secretly crave the monsters it deserves? It really forces us to ask if sometimes society is the one locking the door from the inside.